This video was sponsored by Miblart. More about them later in the video. I just published my first full-length book in nearly 4 years, and I was excited to be able to share this with a good friend of mine, Ross Brand. He's a former guest here at this channel, and he absolutely lost it when he saw my universal book link and the availability of this book across so many different retailers. And it got me to thinking I probably should share some of this process of how I wrote this book, all of the processes in between, and of course, how did I get it distributed to so many different retail platforms. This all starts back in November of 2021 during NaNoWriMo. If you're not familiar with it, it's National Novel Writing Month, and normally you're supposed to be writing fiction books, but the whole idea is to write a full-length book during that month. And well, I happen to do 2 books during that month, 2 of which include the first 2 parts in this 8-part series of Self-Publishing with Dale. And this first part was the very first book, the book that I wanted to write for myself from 10 years ago. Just that blueprint to what I needed to do to get the job done as a first-time author. But the real question is, it's 2024. What the heck? It took me so long. And I really wish I could be able to give you a good solid excuse or a good solid answer. But the issue was, I honestly just kept stockpiling books. I kept saying, well, as soon as I get this next book done, and as soon as I get this next book done. And I think by the time 2021 had wrapped up, I had about 3, if not 4 of these 8 books already written. First draft all set. Now, there was no editing done. It was all just first draft stuff. And some of it was pretty hammered garbage, but that's what I always encourage people to do, is get that first draft done, because you can't edit a blank page. Well, going into 2022, I was ecstatic to learn a little bit more about the process of writing fiction books. I'm good at nonfiction. I've done dozens upon dozens of nonfiction books, but I really wanted to challenge myself going into 2022. And it was fortuitous that I actually got a chance to meet the principal product manager and head of Kindle Vella, Virginia Milner. Now, through Virginia, I got to meet Audrey Carlin, and I ended up interviewing her. And she said, hey, you're going to love Callie Chase. She was a top fave Kindle Vella author at the time, and so I ended up interviewing her as well here on this channel, and actually got to get to know her on a pretty good level, to where I found out that she actually does editing for books. In fact, she's a 2nd-generation author. She's a writing instructor at UCLA. She's a top fave Kindle Vella author. She's been a ghostwriter for many trad pub companies. She's even done editing for indie authors as well as traditional publishing authors. So her name is Genie, by the way, and I'll leave a link inside the description down below if you want to go ahead and look her up. But Genie was fantastic. All of 2022, I spent learning fiction, and I met up with her once, sometimes twice per week, to really learn the craft of fiction writing. And it was a fantastic year, and I got to learn a lot about fiction writing. Now, here's the really cool thing is, while I was writing, I really did it for the intent of just trying to learn. So I ended up writing about a half of a series called Infestate that's available on Kindle Vella now. And really, all I was doing was my homework. I would write, I would learn, and then I would publish my homework. So getting to meet Genie was quite the experience, and I got to know her on a more personal level. She's such a fantastic individual, a great editor. Cannot say enough kind words about her. More about Genie here in just a second. So I've got these 8 books all ready to go. It's already about late 2023 and going into 2024. And I'm like, okay, I have to publish these stinking things. But the problem was I needed to get them edited, because it's not good enough that you just go ahead and write the book and just throw it out into the world and hope for the best, or try to self-edit it, because let's face it, we all have a bias for our, book babies, if you will, and we will miss some of the imperfections that a good, experienced editor would otherwise pick up. So I ended up, right about 2022, I had sent the manuscript to my then content manager, Ava Fales, and she actually went through and edited it, and she did a fantastic job of it back at the time. And then I handed it over to beta readers. Here's problem number 1. One of the things that really slowed me down was I treated the beta reading team like they were an advanced reader copy team, and that I made a massive mistake in bringing on, I am not kidding you, like 24 beta readers. So here's the thing. Beta readers are the readers that are going to go through your manuscript, identify any errors, typos, any developmental issues, any questions or concerns that you weren't able to cover inside the publication. So beta readers are great, but you really shouldn't have that many. And so that was the biggest issue. As soon as I saw all these notes from about a dozen of the 24 that actually applied to be beta readers, and it became super overwhelming, and I just shut down. It's just a fact. Now, I've learned since then that 1 to 3 beta readers is more than sufficient, especially if they're familiar with your niche, which these folks that I actually ended up hand-picking were perfect for that. They were brutally honest. Big shout out to Bill Latoria and Esty Houston. They're 2 of my 3. My third one, I really haven't had permission to say any of her name here on the air, so I don't want to say that. But either way, they were great. So that's why I just limit it to no more than 3 readers. 1 is more than sufficient. Now, I actually ended up managing my beta reading team through an app called Story Origin. Now, Story Origin is a great book marketing tool for many, many reasons. Now, this video is not about Story Origin necessarily, but that's how I was able to get the manuscript into one place and have my beta readers leave all the notes that I needed. And it was all organized. And the cool thing is they're all separated notes. So there's no dogpiling on stuff like, oh, they see this note of this other person, like, let me go ahead and pile on top of that. No, it was all really good. So Story Origin managed all that. Then, because I waited so long after getting that first initial edit and then doing the beta reading, a lot of the information needed updating, because this is the world of self-publishing. Things change at a breakneck pace sometimes. That's what keeps me in a job here on YouTube, is the fact that everything changes so frequently. So it wasn't until late 2023 that I finally returned to the book, and it was overwhelming to say the least. I got in my own head. Add to it my rather hectic schedule. I mean, you've got YouTube. I've got 2 different YouTube channels. I have the podcast, I have this channel, and then I have sponsorships that I had to attend to, and everyday life got in the way. So it kind of slowed to a crawl, but thankfully, I was already in touch with Genie Dita, told you I'd bring her back into the situation here, and she was elated to work with my new series, and she was fantastic. I'm going to tell you this. One of the greatest things about working with her and any experienced editor is not that they're going to change your voice. A great professional editor is only going to enhance and improve what you're doing, not change who you are. And Genie knows me by now, and she knows the voice and how I communicate. And she made sure that we preserved that part of me, but also made it a little bit better. So that was really, really cool. And also, to add to it, she actually brought in a couple of her students through editing, and they got in there and did a few rounds of edits on this book. Actually, I think it was about 1 or 2 rounds that they were able to come in and assist. So I actually had 3 sets of eyes on this very first manuscript, which was super helpful. I mean, it made it super solid. Okay, so the editing's done. What comes next? I actually had to do the market research. It's understanding where my audience is and how to communicate in the best way that they will discover my publication wherever it's being sold. So that's where keywords come into play. Keywords are the bridge that connect your book to your ideal reader. And keywords can be something as simple as a short phrase. So for instance, how to self-publish a book, or publishing on Amazon, or how to write a book. Those type of keywords are great. So you notice keywords aren't just a single term, but sometimes a string of words to make a full phrase. So I'm not going to go too in depth about finding those keywords, but I will tell you that what was super helpful for me was I used a 1-2 combo here, and using Dibbly Create. You've heard me talk about it before. Fantastic service. And I also use Publisher Rocket. So what I did was, on Dibbly Create, I went through and did analysis on the market through the keyword terms, as well as some of the competition within my space. I hate to call them competitors. I feel like they're more peers. than anything. But either way, Dibbly Create goes, they scrape all the keywords that are relevant to my publication, serves it to me. Now, it becomes a little bit of an alphabet soup though, so I need to kind of narrow that down. That's where Publisher Rocket comes into play. So I would take those keywords and I would just see if there's proof of concept, if there is viability on the market for those, and which ones make the most sense to attach to my publication. So I just use that to refine those selections from Dibbly Create. Now, do you need to use those two tools? No, not by any stretch, but it certainly made life a lot easier, and I didn't spend hours banging my head against the wall trying to figure out what's the right keywords. And also, what did I use for the 7 backend keywords for each of my publications, especially through a place like Kindle Direct Publishing? Now, I can break it down to you and to the nth degree, but I'm just going to make it just a very good overhead view and something that I learned from the Kindlepreneur, Dave Chesson. 2 of the keywords, I made sure that they were category specific. I know in the past I was like, I'm not so sure about that, but the problem is that my space is so niche, it's tough finding just the right keywords. And I just finally was like, screw it, threw my hands up in the air and I dived into Publisher Rocket, found the right categories that I wanted to, and then under those categories, I found keywords that were related to it. Now, I made sure that the keywords that I selected weren't in that specific category's browse path on Amazon because it's redundant. We don't want to have redundancy. We just want to confirm and validate with KDP that these are the right categories based on the keywords that we chose. So there was 2 of those. And then I made sure there was about 2 to 3 exact match keywords, meaning that the keyword I placed into that spot was exactly what I want inside there. No deviation whatsoever. So let's say it could probably be how to publish books online. That would be it. I wouldn't throw any other keywords within that slot because I feel like it's the strongest match possible. I typically look at the competition versus the viability, the searchability, things like that before making that decision. And then the other 2 to 3 slots are devoted to broad match keywords, which that is where we kind of fill that slot up to the brim with keywords that have some overlap. So let's say, for instance, 2 of the keywords could probably be how to self-publish online, and another keyword could probably be how to publish fast. So it could probably be how to publish fast online. I'd put that all into one slot and get it to where I have that overlap. I don't try to put keywords that don't have overlap or nonsensical or non-linear with each other because that might just confuse Amazon's algorithms. Next up came the book description, or otherwise what I like to call marketing copy. You've heard me call it ad copy in the past, but my editor, Genie, was like, hey, you don't mean ad copy, you mean marketing copy, genius. She didn't say it like that. She's actually a sweetheart. This is where it's going to be game changing. If you've been kicking tires or you've been upset about artificial intelligence, now's the time to kind of put your ego on the shelf and realize that AI actually can help you for other things other than writing your books. If you don't want to have AI writing books, that's totally fine. I get it. I understand. But there are other aspects of your business that it can be super helpful. So that's where I really leaned on a free service through ChatGPT. Now, you're probably going to say, but Dale, what about Dibbly Create? You've been a big fan of them before. Yes, that's true. I went to ChatGPT with a specific purpose because I wanted to kind of get it to where I would understand artificial intelligence a little bit better and possibly create some prompts that would work out. And that's really what it comes down to is what prompts, what are the right words that I need to communicate to artificial intelligence that it will, pretty much duplicate exactly what I like within a book description. So that way, all I have to do is provide the prompts, provide all of the information that the AI needs, and then it will spit back a book description almost flawlessly like I would have written it. So the first step I did was I gave it a prompt of, I want you to read and study the following book descriptions I've written for my 4 previous books. You don't need to comment or correct any of it. Just read and study it, okay? At that point, AI was like, yeah, fine, that's totally cool. Just give me those book descriptions. So number 2, I gave all of the book descriptions one at a time. And it was so funny because after each time I gave the book description, I paused, I would let AI answer, and it'd say, hey, give me another one. Hey, give me another one. Give me another one. So I had 4 of those lined up. So number 3, I said to it, I'm going to get you to write book descriptions in the same format as those 4 book descriptions. I'll provide you the title, relevant keywords, and the table of contents for the book. Will that be sufficient enough for you to write a description for me? Will you need additional details? And at that point, AI was like, yeah, actually, that's pretty good. You already gave me the book descriptions. And if you go ahead and just give me all that information, I can be able to give you a book description. I was a little bit reluctant. I felt like, I wonder, because there's been numerous times where I try to get AI to cooperate with me outside of the confines of Dibbly Create, and it just gets a little dicey. And I'm just like, oh gosh. But at any rate, number 4, I use Dibbly Create's list of keywords scraped from Amazon that are relevant to my niche. So rather than using the Publisher Rocket narrowed down list, I used the bigger list. Plus, I gave the table of contents, and I made sure that my table of contents broke down into the chapters, the sub-chapters, the sub-sub-chapters. I made sure it was all fully laid out, so that way it knew exactly what I was communicating in the book. Now, number 5, I said, I have a special request that goes along with the previous one. Since I'm going to be registering an ISBN for my book, I need a shortened version of the book description. Keep it under 350 words and limit it to 1 paragraph. Keep the original instructions from before. I just need a shorter variation of the description you created for this book. Do you understand? And at that point, AI was like, yeah, totally fine. So what I did was I fired that off. I gave all the information about my book, including the title, the subtitle, all the relevant keywords, the author name, and the table of contents. And oh my gosh, it came back as if I wrote it, nearly flawless. Now, this is where the next step is most important. Analyze. You have to go and analyze, edit, and finalize exactly what you have. AI is fantastic. It's great for many uses, but it's not perfect. It's much like a human that you have to go through and edit this stuff. Because I've discovered with artificial intelligence, sometimes it provides some questionable words or some flowery prose that just doesn't seem applicable to what you're doing. That's where human intervention makes the most difference when utilizing artificial intelligence. So I went in, I tweaked a couple of things, but beyond that, it was solid. I was very, very impressed with it. And of course, you can always just go ahead and visit my product listing, link inside the description down below, or you go over to dailylinks.com/new authors and read it for yourself and see what you think. You won't see the shortened description because that was what was put in the ISBN. So this leads me to the next invaluable tool I'm going to hand off to you. It's my metadata worksheet, or I just call it a metadata sheet to be simpler. But the metadata sheet is exactly what I use to track all of my books. And this includes the title, the subtitle, the series name, the author name, the imprint name, the word count, the page count, ISBNs for all iterations, the retail price for each of those iterations, a short bio, a short description, and the long description. Then I break down the keywords and categories used for the ebook, paperback, hardcover, and audiobook editions. Why did I make this sheet? Because it removes any friction during your publishing process. I'm all about optimizing my workflow. The less steps that I need to take, the better. The less time I need to spend on publishing books, the better. And having this sheet available right away while I'm doing some marketing and promotion or I'm uploading a book makes life so much easier. You're more efficient in sharing information. It makes for a quicker upload. It makes for more efficient marketing and promotion. All you got to do is just copy and paste. So, by the way, if you want to get your hands on my metadata sheet, there's no sign up or anything else like that. All you have to do is go over to dailylinks.com/metadata sheet. It's available over on Google Sheets or Google Docs. Yeah, it was available through Google Docs. That's exactly what I'm trying to say. It's free, no catch. There's no sign up. I just want to kind of provide you with something. And if you scroll down to the bottom, by the way, I give you a full list of the different book links that you're going to need to do for gathering reviews. And all you need to do is add your ASIN at the very end of that. The instructions are on the metadata sheet. Again, dailylinks.com/metadata sheet. So now it's time to build the book. And this is where cover design and interior formatting comes into play. We really need to dial in that marketing. And I've been the biggest proponent of hiring a professional cover design. Now, this is where I leaned on my preferred cover design service, Miblart, to produce the highest quality book possible. Because I can't just simply put out some Canva produced cover. I'm sorry, no knock on anybody that happens to use Canva, but they all look the same. And even when they don't, it's never quite, up to par, at least according to what I feel is good. So the process was rather simple in working with Miblart. I literally, all I had to do is go in, put the order in. I had to give all of the details, examples of book covers that I liked, any type of information that I wanted to share. So for instance, I shared all of the book covers I've had in the past. I've shared some of the books that are currently in the bestseller lists that are in my niche that I felt like, ooh, these best embody exactly what I'm shooting for. I wanted to put in my logo. I wanted to give my author bio, even my author picture. And I wanted to give a short description as well, because I felt like the longer description would take up too much of the back of the book. And that's not what I wanted to shoot for. So the first draft came and I polled my Discord community. By the way, if you really want to get into the mix and network and connect and mastermind with other authors in our space, join my Discord community, dalelinks.com/Discord. And I'm going to tell you, a lot of people were not fans of the color change. You can see here on the screen right now how it is bright white. It's got the bright blue color that I typically have on my logo here for the channel, but it didn't embody the previous publications I've done. I really wanted to pivot away from that, but instantly I found out that my followers, my viewers, really weren't fans of that. And I was kind of surprised because I really liked that first iteration, but I need to be very realistic. It's not about me. It's about the audience. It's about the ideal reader. So I sent in some of those changes, and some of the stuff I did agree with. Other stuff I was like begrudgingly decided, okay, let's run with this and see exactly where it went. So the second draft came in, I polled the community again. Again, they were not fans of the overly orange cover. Now, this is pretty interesting because I really wasn't a fan of it either. I liked the white and blue cover over this orange one. And the reason was that my second book in the Amazon Self-Publisher series called Promotional Strategies for Books was a predominantly orange cover, and it didn't perform as well as my other books. The other books that were a little bit more blue heavy or a little bit lighter seemed to do a lot better. For whatever reason, Promotional Strategies for Books, even though it was one of my favorite in the series, didn't perform as well. And I think it probably comes down to that cover design and the fact that the theme was very orange heavy. So that just tracks. Now, the other thing was the back cover was just too crammed. They were trying to take the long form description and put it into the back. And there was no author bio. And I was like, okay, what gives here? There's no author bio. And so the back cover was too crammed. And then I went in and I looked into the actual project on Miblart, and I discovered it was my fault. It was a 100% miscommunication. I did not fully communicate to them my needs. I wanted them specifically to use the short description and not the long description. Now, see, they asked for the blurb, which was my short description, and then they asked for the description. So naturally, they grabbed that long form description rather than the shorter one. And so that was my fault. Now, the third draft came back and we were a lot warmer. We were definitely on the right track. Now, some of the elements like the logo was my decision. So on the front cover, I really wanted to have my book logo on there, and they placed it over the hyphen between self and publishing. And it just looked imbalanced. And as much as my ego wanted to have that logo on there, I understood immediately that there's a time and there's a place, and that was not the time and that was definitely not the place. Now, the back cover was still just a bit too crammed. Again, it was a miscommunication until I finally said, hey, I really want this shortened description and I want the author bio. So by the time the fourth draft came through, it was pretty much finalized. There was just a few small tweaks. And besides that too, we also needed to know the page count. So that's what leads me to the interior formatting. So setting up the formatting project through Miblart was dead simple. I just needed to kind of upload my manuscript and my needs. So what they provided me initially were two variations. One with the old style interior layout that I used with my other books. I'm going to show it here on the screen. It has almost like that header and had some graphics. And then the second one was more of a minimalist layout. Now, I ended up choosing the minimalist layout because previously I found out through some certain companies when I would print out the book, the paper would warp because there was just entirely too much ink on the page. And that's not the fault of Miblart. They're not at fault. They're just doing what they're told, and they're doing the best that they can. So it just, when I looked at it, I just toiled over it for a little bit. I brought my wife in. I said, hey, what do you think about these ones? And I didn't tell her about the paper warping or anything else like that. I just showed her both of them. And she's like, no, that's too busy. She's like, I like this one better. And I was game for it. And it kind of tracks because I will have to admit to you that in the Amazon Self-Publisher series that I had published back in 2020, they had a lot of images. And the big issue with the images was anytime someone mentioned anything about the images, they just felt like it was just not readable. It's just they couldn't discern what was going on. And even though you can go into an ebook and pinch and squeeze and look at it and go, oh, okay, here we go. A lot of people aren't aware of that option, or it just was not sufficient. So I just needed to remove the images from my interior. So that made life easier for me and made life easier for Miblart when they're doing the formatting. So it took about 4 drafts until we got it right, but there was an issue. And this was 100%, again, my miscommunication. I didn't think about this. Previously, I'd used other interior formatters besides Miblart, and we already had this discussion, with this previous interior formatter. I'm not going to mention it for the fact that Miblart is sponsoring this video. And they understood that there were going to be notes within the interior that they would have to adhere to, that they would notice. But this particular publication, there was only 2 notes, and it was to put together a grayed out section. It was almost like a side note. I wanted to kind of be separated from the rest because it was a little bit off track. And so Ross gets a hold of me and he says, hey, buddy, did you mean to do this? And it says interior formatter, insert gray box here. And I was like, oh no, the book was already published. I had already gone through, I'd proofed the whole process so many times until I felt like my eyes were going to bleed. And yeah, it was messed up, and it wasn't their fault. I mean, they literally weren't told to look out for those notes. Thankfully, we already have the other books in production, and they know about the notes and they know to look out for it. But if you ever put any notes to an interior formatter, make sure that you bold it, italicize it, underline it, make the letter big, and highlight that thing, and then tell them when you put in your order. So that way there's no miscommunication and you're not having to revise over and again. Hey, get high quality graphic design for your marketing needs through Miblart, from cover designs to interior formatting to logo design and more when you visit my affiliate link at dalelinks.com/Miblart. Are you still unsure if Miblart is for you? Then check this out. You do not need a deposit. Yeah, keep your wallet put aside. This is a huge benefit since authors have nothing to lose. And if you didn't already catch it from earlier, Miblart provides unlimited revisions. Yeah, you won't see other cover design companies offering this perk without some catch or upcharge. Should you be working on a fixed budget, you can always divide payments into 2 equal monthly installments rather than pay the whole amount at once. Just a quick browse through their portfolio, you'll quickly see that Miblart works with both nonfiction and fiction authors. Special thanks to the sponsors of this video, Miblart. One of the best ways to support this channel is to support the sponsors. Browse Miblart's portfolio to see for yourself why I rave so much about them. Again, that's dalelinks.com/Miblart. All right, so let's get into the publishing. If you're looking to publish wide, you might want to take some notes as I rattle off these places I published each iteration of my books. I'm going to move relatively fast, but the good news is you can always rewatch this section so you don't miss anything. For publishing ebooks, I hit a variety of avenues. First of all, Amazon Kindle Direct Publishing. Why Amazon KDP? Well, they're reaching Amazon. You've got a huge audience over that direction. I won't forego them. And their ebook pricing structure, I was definitely going to be pricing my ebook at $7.99. So that means I'll be getting a 70% royalty for every ebook sale. The next one is Kobo Writing Life. Now, why Kobo Writing Life? Well, I've become a fan of Kobo for a while now. I actually have their app on my phone and I read some books through them. Kobo is an ever expanding market. It's been going out into various avenues and using Kobo Plus. Kobo Plus is almost like Kindle Unlimited over on Amazon, but there's a non-exclusive agreement with them. So that's kind of nice that I can put my book into a lending program such as that. And also one thing that Kobo Writing Life has is the direct access to Overdrive. So there are other platforms that you can reach Overdrive. You can't go direct into Overdrive to my knowledge, but those other platforms that you would use are going to take a percentage of all the sales you make through Overdrive, which reaches a lot. I mean, tens of thousands of libraries and over the world. And this is a great opportunity. I always want to have my books available through libraries because I use libraries on a regular basis. So that's one of the reasons why I love Kobo Writing Life. And also you get more metadata control. There's so much and so many benefits you can take advantage of, such as direct uploading audiobooks, as well as they have certain promotional opportunities for anybody that publishes through Kobo Writing Life. The next option is Google Play Books Partner Center. Now, this one, you could use an aggregate publisher to get to them, but I'd say it was about a couple years ago that they removed the aggregate access. You could do, say, for instance, Publish Drive has integration with Google Play Books, but you have to give them permissions. There's so many hoops you have to jump through. And I love Publish Drive, don't get me wrong, but if that's going to be that way, I might as well just go ahead and upload it myself. And they reach over 75 different retailing options with Google Play. So getting in there, it's really, really nice. So the next one, Publish Drive, that's going to be the next option that I've already kind of discussed a little bit. They are an aggregate publisher, meaning that they're a middleman that will publish for you in exchange for either part of your revenue or for an upfront payment. Now for Publish Drive, they actually do a subscription-based model based on the number of publications that you do. I've done some deep dives on Publish Drive previously, but just the TLDR is Publish Drive is a great platform, but it's not for everyone. If you're a new author, chances are likely, if you don't have a following, it's probably not the most appropriate place to go. Now, I'm using Publish Drive. Sure, I've got the following, but I ended up getting a very sweet deal a couple years ago on AppSumo. For whatever reason, Publish Drive, I don't know, they must have had too much to drink at some point or another, but they put a deal up on AppSumo to where you wouldn't have to worry about the subscription fees up to, I think it was like 96 or 97 titles altogether. And I was like, done, bought it. I was like quick about it. And I even shared it to people and people were like, yeah, I don't know why I need to go to Publish Drive. I'm like, your loss. But the nice thing is now I'm able to reach dozens of different platforms and they don't take any fees at all. There's no subscription. There's no subscription-based like monthly fee that I need to worry about. There's no need to worry about them taking a cut of anything coming back to me. So that's one of the reasons why I head over towards them. Now, the next one is Drafted Digital. I'm a huge fan of Drafted Digital. They're an aggregate publisher. Yes, they collect about 10% of your retail price for every sale, but they do reach a lot of little nooks and crannies. Most importantly, they reach libraries. And that to me, again, you know, if you're not big into libraries, that's totally fine. But I'm a big library nerd. I love to support local libraries. So going through Drafted Digital is a no-brainer to me. And the next one is Lulu Bookstore. Now, why Lulu? Now, Lulu is fantastic for distribution. They're an aggregate publisher, but they also have the Lulu Bookstore where you get the best royalty per sale. It's, I believe, like a 80-20 or maybe it was a 90-10 split. I'll put it on the screen right here. But Lulu also spotlights their authors from time to time. They're very proud of the authors that use their platform. So to me, it's a no-brainer. I mean, it only takes me about, 5 minutes, 10 minutes tops to go ahead and publish this and put it on over there. Sign me up. The next option is PayHip. Now, PayHip is a direct sales platform that's usually meant for direct downloads. Now, with PayHip, they also have one of the best royalties per sale. In fact, bar none. In fact, if you have their basic free plan, they only take 5% per sale. And then, of course, there are the payment processing fees, whether Stripe or PayPal, which would be an additional, I don't know, 2.5%. It's negligible, but it's really, really good when you can make it a sale through them. They more recently rolled out a new marketplace, meaning that there is going to be much more organic reach and a way that you can sell more of your ebooks. And I'll tell you why print books here pretty soon. And this is so super important to me because if there is going to be traffic going to the marketplace, it only makes sense that I just make my ebook available. So I published the paperback books. Oh yes, they went to Amazon KDP. Again, I really like the quality of Amazon KDP's print paperbacks. And actually this one is one of the paperbacks. Really love it. I've always been a fan of Amazon KDP's quality. If you're not a big fan, it's totally fine. But I went ahead, again, it's Amazon. Why wouldn't I go there? Ingram Spark is the next distributor. Now, the reason why I lean on Ingram Spark is because they are the direct pipeline to Ingram Book Group, who reaches over 40,000 retailers all throughout the world. I mean, they have the widest reach possible. Yeah, you can get Ingram Book Group through something like, say, KDP's expanded distribution, but they take their pound of flesh. Same thing, Drafted Digital. Drafted Digital offers it. Love them to death. They're fantastic. They're a great option. But the issue is, again, they're going to take their pound of flesh. There's so much more control with your metadata when you're going through Ingram Spark. Now, this is just my opinion. I like Ingram Spark for distributing my paperback books. I avoid KDP's expanded distribution because they take their pound of flesh, and also they don't even reach all of Ingram Book Group. So that right there makes the hugest difference. Now, I did set my wholesale discount to 55%. This is something that Ingram Spark recommends that you do in order to qualify or become more enticing for brick and mortar distribution. In other words, going to the physical bookstores. I didn't turn refunds on because I'm not all about that life. Because what if some bookstore goes and orders like 50,000 copies and says, oh, we meant to just order 50 copies. Well, I'm going to have to eat that cost. That's not going to work for me. I keep refunds off. I turn the wholesale discount on because I still want to entice any of the different retail platforms to stock my book. Now, here's where I ran into some issues. My first issues was with the cover design being rejected. For whatever reason, Ingram Spark is super picky about their specs and the cover design that they do. Now, Miblart was really quick to fix the issue. They were very fast. I ended up resubmitting that cover design, and within a couple days, it was approved. Now, here's a quick tip that I want to kind of give here. You can use the automated barcode system with any of the platforms, but what I would recommend is that you create a barcode yourself with the pricing included. This is how brick and mortar stores need that, because if you're just putting a regular barcode on there without the pricing, they're going to end up stocking that on the shelf. But then there's going to be 50,000 different people coming up to them going, how much does this book cost? How much book? They don't want to bother with that type of stuff. Make their life easier, create a barcode, and make sure that if you're processing your book through, say, Miblart, give them that barcode. Say, use this barcode, please. And they'll go ahead and use that. And you can use that barcode across all the different platforms. Yes, if you change your pricing, you're going to have to change the barcode. My recommendation is stick with your pricing until you absolutely have to change it. Now, you can get free barcodes made. You don't need to spend any money. Go over to dalelinks.com/barcode. The Kindlepreneur provides you a very intuitive tool to getting a barcode created within, I'd say, less than half a minute. My next avenue was Publish Drive. Now, I just wanted to reach 2 of the regions for the paperback distribution. They have available for China. Now, of course, that's barring them not refusing entry in there, because obviously it is China. So they're going to be very, very censor oriented. I'm pretty confident, though, maybe my book should hopefully make it in there. And then also Repro India. Now, I've got a huge India audience. If you're in India and you're watching this video, please shout me out inside the comments. Repro India is one of the greatest ways to do print on demand in India. So that is why I leaned heavily into Publish Drive. Book Vault was my next option. Now, why Book Vault? Book Vault has got the best quality on the market today, bar none. I absolutely love what they do through their UK print on demand distribution. Fantastic. And also their cost is pretty incredible. So that's one of the reasons why I lean into BookVault. Now, they do have different distribution, but for the most part, what I lean on BookVault primarily for is the PayHip integration. Yeah, you can fulfill print-on-demand orders through direct sales on PayHip. They used to have some middleman of Zapier, and it was just, it was rife with issues. I tried setting it up, and then like the team was like, wait, we're going to have direct integration. And it wasn't too long ago that they actually got that direct integration. Really, really helpful. Love it. So if you want to get the greatest royalty possible for your print book, go through BookVault, have that PayHip integration, and send traffic towards that direction. And then, of course, BookVault has the Great British Bookshop, which is essentially like their bookstore front. And having that available, I mean, it's not going to hurt anything. Have I made any sales on it yet? No, but it only took me an extra 5 minutes possibly to put it all together. There is the potential for doing direct sales because BookVault does integrate with Shopify, WooCommerce, Wix, and so on. There's so many. I think they're even working on TikTok Shop at this point. And the reason why Shopify is important to me is since I'm a YouTube creator, I'm part of the YouTube Partner Program. And you might have seen from time to time, there is a merch shelf, what we call like a little carousel of different products. Sometimes it's stickers, mugs, shirts. It used to be ebooks until YouTube was like, nah, we don't do direct downloads anymore. Okay, whatever. But they still do integrate with Shopify. So I anticipate in due time, I'm actually going to use Shopify and then potentially be using BookVault because this next one I'm going to share with you also has integration with Shopify. The next one is Lulu Bookstore. Again, doesn't hurt. You get a great royalty selling through Lulu Bookstore. It's kind of like the ebook and that, what's it going to hurt? Takes an extra few minutes for me to go ahead and put that up there. Now, potentially for direct sales too, and it's almost the same as BookVault. They have the API, they have Shopify, they have WooCommerce. So having those options available to me is great. And I love the print quality of Lulu. It's starting to split hairs. You know, you're comparing apples to oranges because BookVault and Lulu both have great quality. I love what they do. And then I published the hardback books through Amazon KDP, as you would imagine, but I'm just not the biggest fan of the quality for their hardcover books. That's just my opinion. Yet, I really haven't seen any bad reviews about it. So maybe it's just me being picky. So that's why I ended up caving and saying, okay, but the first bad review I see, bye, out of here. I'm just going to go ahead and pull it because the next option was Ingram Spark. I chose Ingram Spark because they've got great print quality for hardcover books and they have so many options available. Much like the paperback, I also made sure to enable it for 55% wholesale discount so I could get better chance of getting in brick and mortar stores. And of course I didn't enable refunds because no, I'm just not, no. And here's the part that I ran into issues with the cover again. Now, obviously, the paperback and the hardcover are going to have two different types of covers because they have different bleeds on them. So that means that it got bounced on the paperback and it got bounced on the hardcover. So I sent the issues over to Miblart. They sent back a draft. I tried it again, bounced again. Went back over to Miblart. And by the way, Miblart didn't charge anything extra. They just fixed it. They were like, hey, sorry, we got it. It's no problem. We have it handled. On the second time, boom, it was out there. In fact, now Ingram Spark is distributing that hardcover book and I'm starting to see it popping up in various storefronts. So if you don't see the storefront that you want for hardcover books, stay tuned. That will be coming relatively soon. And naturally, I hit Lulu Bookstore before. I hit Lulu Bookstore again. Again, killer quality, great royalty. BookVault, hit them again. Same thing as Lulu. Great royalty, great quality. Now, I ended up hitting Publish Drive next. And what surprised me was I thought they were only doing paperback books. Well, I was right because when I selected hardback, it was actually kind of a poll to see if there was interest. So you want to make sure you stay tuned to this channel. If I find out more details about when Publish Drive rolls out hardback distribution, I will let you know here first. So right now it seems like they're gauging interest and I'm very interested, Publish Drive. I do plan on publishing the audiobook version and a full video course for every single one of my 8 books inside this series. So make sure you stay tuned. It's just taking a little bit longer. Obviously, this is a lot of books, and audiobook typically doesn't perform as well as my print iteration or ebook iteration. If you plan to use all these avenues, give yourself at least a week to have all platforms propagating your books across the platforms. Because if you try to rush this, you say, okay, my hard deadline for this book is July 15th. I want to get it out. You should have all that stuff ready to go by, I would say, June 15th. And I learned that one the hard way. That's why it was a lot of rushing at the last second, and that's why there were so many mistakes and miscommunications on my part. The next step was where I ended up doing universal book links. Now, I actually had shared the screenshot early on, and this is where Ross lost his mind. He's like, oh my gosh. I use a service called Books to Read. Now, this is actually owned by the Draft the Digital company. And essentially, when you're using a universal book link, it gets it to where it provides all the options and also regional support. So for instance, if you just share an Amazon.com link on Twitter or Facebook, yeah, I'm still calling it Twitter, screw X. If you're just using that and somebody in UK clicks on that, it's going to send them to the US marketplace where they can't buy your book. So having a universal book link removes that friction. It gets it to where when you share this link, they select that, they will go to the region-specific marketplace of their preferred retailer. So if you're publishing wide like me and you have all these different links, they can choose the retail platform and land in the right region for that retail platform. So bookstoread.com, fantastic. Now, all you have to do is you enter your link on Amazon, and then Books to Read scrapes the internet for all iterations. Now, it's not perfect. It's not going to find every single ebook iteration. That's where you're going to need to do a little bit of research and find where all the ebook iterations are. And also, you're going to have to add the print iterations in paperback and hardcover, or large print if you have that available, which I don't. And then audiobooks as well. You have to hand key that in there. Initially, the first week of my release, I was checking daily for all these iterations. And what I literally had to do was go to each of the different storefronts that they have available inside Books to Read. You can see it here on the screen. And I would just search it up. And then I would go to that platform, put in my title, look it up, find that link, boom, drop it on into Books to Read, lock it, and then save. And it's good to go. Now, after that first initial week, you're going to probably find all the ones that you need to, but I would recommend that you return to it weekly until all of those ones have been fulfilled. But here's a nice little key and a nice little tip you're going to love. There's actually a way to drive more reviews to your book, a direct link to your reviews. But the problem is if you try to create a direct link to a review, like say Amazon.com, and someone over in the UK clicks on it, well, they're not going to be able to leave that review. So I show you in this next video how to create a universal review link. And hey, while we're at it, if you already saw that one about universal review links, check out this video where Miblart did my Kindle Vella cover design. It's actually really good, and I almost botched it, kind of like I did with this whole thing. I'll see you in either video.